Yeah, thank you everyone who subscribed and who takes the time to listen to us. It means everything. You guys are supporting us and keeping the show going, so that's incredible. Please subscribe if you haven't. We would love that. We, as fans of the Nuggets, were able to cover the Olympics because we had some Nuggets players playing, and we love their international teams because we have international players, especially Jokic on Serbia. We got a lot of fans from Serbia watching, which shout out to all you fans in Serbia who tuned into our last episode about the Olympics and their amazing run.
I did have just one thing to say about that too. We actually got our last video was actually our was that our most popular video like ever by a mile for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because of the Serbian fans of the Nuggets, of Jokic, of Team Serbia that showed out to watch that video. And we got a lot of comments. And when you get a lot of comments, you're gonna get a lot of good and a lot of bad. There was one that I came across that just wanted to give a little bit more credit to Serbia's defense, which I didn't really talk about on our Olympic wrap up episode, but that is something that really, to me, made the biggest difference. Obviously, the 3-point shooting came back for that team, but the biggest difference between how they looked in group play versus the knockout round, they really turned it up. We could see early on they were trying to apply a lot of ball pressure and all of that, but the rotations on the back line weren't always there. The transition defense was definitely a problem against really athletic teams like Team USA and South Sudan, particularly in the group stage. But once the knockout phase started, and in particular the second half of that game versus Australia, right? Serbia really buttoned down on defense, and a lot of the credit for that goes to Aleksa Avramović and Marko Guduric, Dobric as well on the perimeter. Petrovic and Jokic, obviously, trying to hold down that front line as well. So, to the user who commented on our lack of comment on Serbia's defense, thank you for that because that was something that I did want to shout out.
Yeah, we had talked about their defense on and off throughout all of our Olympic coverage. I think we talked about it more in the exhibition games more than the
Yeah,
knockout
yeah.
ones or the group stage,
Well, the
which
group play, they were looking like
yeah, I mean
rough.
they were
So,
kind of yeah, ramping up. And I think maybe we take some of that for granted just cuz we know how Jokic plays on defense, his style of defense, which is maybe underrated, and with the defense of 3 seconds we had mentioned before, maybe allows him to be a little bit better of a rim protector than he can be in the NBA cuz he can just plant himself down there and use his great hands to react and get some blocks, which was amazing to see when that happened. And obviously,
absolutely.
Avramović won a like defensive award or whatever, like the
Oh,
yeah.
yes. I
So
believe that Aleksa Avramović actually won Best Defensive Player. So I guess like Defensive Player of the tournament, the equivalent went to Aleksa Avramović, which is really impressive. And I thought he was great. I thought he was great whenever he had to guard anybody that wasn't named Steph Curry, right? He was incredibly impactful player for Team Serbia, who you could see like that team was really in need of his point of attack defense. Like whenever he was off the floor, I'm like, get Alexa back. So yeah, really important anchor to that team's defense. And thinking about the kind of player that he is and the energy and what he does at the point of attack kind of reminds me of KCP and maybe it makes me a little bit nervous about
yeah,
losing
yeah.
him for the Nuggets.
There was a commentary throughout the Olympics from Nuggets fans who were ready to sign Avramović to the Nuggets. Like, get him over here. We need some defense. We
I
need
mean,
some
we just need
guard
like another player.
play. Yeah, yeah we want more players too. We have to lose some on the roster first. Wink, wink, Calvin Booth. Anyway, but now, I mean, people were even like speculating about bogey trades. Like, how do we get him on the team? Obviously, he's way too expensive for us. We'd have to trade probably a starter, which we're not willing to really do right now. But I would love to see him play with Jokic on the Nuggets. That'd be crazy. And then there were some rumors that popped up that maybe the Nuggets are interested in Micic. I don't know how legit that is, but I saw rumors swirling on Twitter about that. We'll see. The last thing I want to say about Serbia to wrap this up is we had comments about the officiating, which I guess we just didn't really dive into that because it's such a hot button topic. It's kind of subjective. It can be hard to evaluate fully. Maybe there were some bad calls here and there, but I just think for the most part, we avoid reffing commentary unless something's like very egregious or like really affected like the last couple seconds of a game or something where like a team got a possession they maybe shouldn't have and that affected the outcome.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I'm probably gonna get some number of Serbian viewers of this in my mentions or not because it's not an Olympic episode. But we can talk about reffing when you don't blow a 17-point lead. You can't talk about reffing when you blow a 17-point lead in this game. So yeah, I shouldn't have been in a position to, make that a potentially deciding factor. We talked a little bit about just refereeing on the whole, comparing it to the NBA and refs not necessarily going for as much stuff. There were a lot of times where I actually felt like they need to blow the whistle a little bit more here because there's some like clear violations happening. It's not like Team Serbia in particular. This was just like throughout the tournament, just a little bit. So it's one of those like grass is always greener on the other side
Yeah.
type things. I do think that if you could say anything about how it impacted the games, particularly during France's run, the fact that the referees allowed defensive players to play more physically in general, I think favored good defensive teams. The United States was a good defensive team throughout this tournament run. That's one of the reasons that they were so, dominant. It wasn't just like they were coasting by on their talent, although you could, talk about the defensive talent on that team as well. But also Team France was able to overperform, and it was in not just large part, I think it was entirely because of their defense and, having a tighter whistle, I guess,
Yeah.
would serve to augment that that advantage that they have because they don't have a lot of offensive talent on that team. But if they can, completely stifle you like they did with Canada and Germany, then they will always be in the game. That always have a chance. We even saw when they played Team USA, while the USA always had that game within control, they were never really able to pull away. And I think Team France's defense was a big part of that. One of the few games where Team USA did still score a lot, but it wasn't, an explosive offense like you saw in their other games. So similar to how they played versus Serbia.
Yeah, and that does remind me, the last thing I'll say is it was fun watching Serbia's ball pressure in general as a team and how they tried to apply it and when they backed off of it, when they tried to put in the defensive effort, when they maybe weren't putting in that effort. Because I feel like sometimes there was like a switch, even with Avramović, where he was like, wait, I can be a little more physical here in this matchup. And maybe, not that he was fouling or should have been called a foul, but when you, maybe he's more experienced at towing the line between being super physical and not being called a foul. Whereas maybe the U.S. players aren't as used to that playing in the NBA. They don't necessarily know like what they can get away with yet because they're like masters at kind of grifting and the veteran moves that draw fouls on offense and defense in the NBA. And maybe they're a little less clear here. I don't know that it played a huge role, but actually, you know what? Serbia got screwed by the refs. They would have won. They would have got a gold if it wasn't for the refs. I got you,
It's
Serbia.
playing for the Serbian audience
I got
real
you,
hard.
Serbia. They got screwed. Okay.
Yeah, so next week we are going to be having Asher Levy on the show to talk about the Nuggets offseason and rank it in the context of the Western Conference and the NBA as a whole. So we're really looking forward to that episode as well. Look out for that next week.
In the meantime, like, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification bell. Leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening on or watching. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We'll still try to be putting shorts up when we can. And check out our new Clips channel on What's in a Game NBA Clips. And remember, winning is fun and losing sucks.